Job interviews can be stressful and, sad to say, easy to mess up. Career expert Roy Cohen joins me. Roy, good to see you once again.
Good to see you too, Rhonda.
Now, you've actually come up with 10 ways to blow a job interview. We're going to take a look at them. First one is you talk over the interviewer, you embellish the details, you arrive late, you shake hands like a dead fish, you are obsessed with your favorite device. And there's more. You don't ask questions, you smell, you dress to thrill, you overshare, and you don't anticipate the pushback. So these are interesting. I want to start with the last one. You don't anticipate the pushback. So what do you mean by that exactly?
Well, every one of us has a skeleton or two hidden in the closet, and we need to make sure that in discussing our backgrounds that we're prepared to talk about what may be points of interest that could trip us up. So if you have moved around from one job to another with some frequency, I can assure you that the interviewer, a good interviewer, is going to ask you about that particular point.
All right, some of these other points are interesting. Things like you dress to thrill or you overshare. I hate to think of some examples you've had in this, but I'm going to ask you.
Well, absolutely, dress to thrill. I remember a couple of years ago, a brand new client was showing up at my office, and this is a woman who works on the trading floor, and she was concerned about credibility, and also she wanted to be out in the marketplace to begin interviewing. And she arrived in my office wearing a leather miniskirt and a bustier. And the first thing she said to me was, I can't tell you how many men looked at me on my way over here. So I knew that there was an issue. If she was coming to my office dressed like that, then she would probably show the same sort of poor judgment going into an interview.
Some of these you would think would be common sense for grown adults at this point in their lives.
Sure, absolutely. You know, none of us is perfect, and in this particular case, she wasn't aware that the way she was dressed could distract the interviewer and focus attention not on her qualifications, but on other attributes. And that was not where she should have been going.
So what is the worst case you've ever dealt with of somebody who just blew a job interview by doing something they could not recover from?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I have a client that I've worked with over a number of years, and he's, to be quite frank, he's slightly effeminate. And he also happens to work in an industry that's considered to be very macho, machismo. And when he does his interviews, for some reason they don't seem to work out. So we did a practice interview one day. And I said, Mike, I want you to come into my office. I'd like you to shake my hand as you would in an interview. And we begin the process. So he walks in my office, takes my hand in both of his hands, I refer to this as the double-handed shake, and says, "It's so nice to meet you." And it was such a turnoff because most people don't expect to shake hands like that. Or the limp fish handshake, where you just sort of shake as if it's not important to you. There's no sense of urgency.
Can you recover when you make a big mistake in a job interview? Is there a way just to say, you know, my bad, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that?
Well, you know what, we never apologize in an interview because then we draw further attention to what we've done wrong. And the fact is that an interview should be more than just an initial impression. So if, in this particular case with this fellow, I would have encouraged him to, in leaving the interview, to make sure that he shook hands with some firmness.
How about arriving late? That can happen in places like New York where you're stuck on a subway.
Well, think about it. What does arriving late mean? It means that you don't value your interviewer's time. No matter how, what reason you may have or how late you are, the fact is that you are still keeping your interviewer from doing something. And that's unacceptable. It says something about your sense of priority.
All right, some great tips. Roy Cohen, good to see you again. Thanks.
You're very welcome. Good to see you.
See, that's a firm handshake.
That's right.
I'm Rhonda Schaffler for The Street.